When they analyze Miami against Ohio State, there's two things they keep getting wrong about Miami's offense and about Rueben Bain Jr.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're so close to the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Miami Hurricanes taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes, quarterfinal round of the college football playoff. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're part of the now #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Rugiet. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet ready. Feel present, feel confident, and feel ready. On this loaded episode, Miami's top recruit, early enrollee, Jackson Cantwell, is practicing. There's another important player for next year who's been practicing as well. We'll talk about it. We'll break down on this episode the Miami Hurricanes' keys against Ohio State, and you're going to need to execute probably all of these keys because there is a reason why the Hurricanes are underdogs by 9.5 points. Ohio State is very dangerous. It's the best team Miami has faced this year. Hurricanes must execute in the following ways. But let's talk about a couple of misconceptions about Miami heading into this matchup. I've read a lot of content. I've watched a lot of people's breakdowns, and there are a couple of myths, a couple of fallacies that keep getting regurgitated and they keep getting repeated over and over and over again. And first, I want to talk about Miami's top edge rusher, because one of these myths that I keep seeing going around is, well, hey, Rueben Bain Jr. must be overrated because he doesn't have a lot of sacks this year. He only has 7.5 sacks. Like, I see this take so often, and it's very clear that it comes from people who I think we would describe as box score watchers and not ball knowers. Because if you're not actually watching the games, if you're not paying attention to Miami's defensive line and the way they're affecting opposing offenses, if you're only checking the box scores after the games, yeah, you saw a couple games where Bain didn't have any sacks. You know, you saw single-digit sacks on the year. He did have 3 sacks against Texas A&M. Hopefully people were paying attention to that. But yeah, a lot of the non-ball knowers are coming out of this season saying, hey, what's all the hype about this Bain guy? He only got home 7.5 times this year. Well, meanwhile, for those who actually pay attention, Rueben Bain Jr. has the highest Pro Football Focus grade at a 92.5 of all the edge rushers in the entire country. He's a top-tier run defender as well, ranking 14th nationally in run stopping, and that's regardless of position, by the way. Bain, I mentioned against Texas A&M. If you were paying attention to that one, you obviously saw him affect that game. Had 7 QB pressures, 3 sacks in that game. Meanwhile, and I know we talk a lot about Bain because he's probably going to be a top 5 draft pick. That's another piece of evidence, and he's an excellent player. But, you know, we probably should talk more about Akheem Mesidor as well. Akheem Mesidor, CFP record 11 pressures against Texas A&M. Like, these are 2 of the very best edge rushers in the entire country. And for anyone who thinks Bain is overrated or he's not that good because he only has 7.5 sacks, keep talking your talk. He'll put you in the notebook. You know, one of the clips I was watching, and it seems like it's probably a pretty good show if you're into Ohio State, but the Bobby Carpenter show, a guy goes by Schlegelville. Anthony Schlegel went on this rant about how, you know, Bain is overrated. He's not that good because Caden Curry from Ohio State has got 11.5 sacks on the year, 11 even on the year. Bain only has 7. As Rueben Bain would say, God bless them, right? They're going to find out on Wednesday night. I hope they find out on Wednesday night because we need to see Bain play big. So that's one of these things. You see that regurgitated and perpetuated all around the country. Is Rueben Bain really that good? He's a game wrecker, folks. I mean, Bain is going to be living rent-free in your backfield. And, you know, obviously there are certain ways to try to game plan around him. have things moving in the opposite direction, get rid of the football really quickly. That's what Louisville was able to do against Miami. So you could try to scheme around Bain. You got Mesidor on the other side, and even if Bain is not necessarily collecting 3 sacks in a game, he's still affecting your game plan. So God bless them if they want to talk their talk about Rueben Bain. And then the other misconception that I see rolling around, and this one is just pure prisoner of the moment. This one is pure recency bias. That, hey, Miami's offense clearly sucks because they only scored 10 points in the last game that they played. Hello, McFly, anybody home? Context, please. Okay, yeah, Miami only scored 10 points against Texas A&M. I got it. It happened. I saw it. But leaving the context out of the swirling winds at College Station, which made field goal kicking virtually impossible. Miami went 1 for 4 that day on field goals. Anything beyond extra point range was a crapshoot. Between both of the teams, only one downfield pass was hit the entire game. I don't think that one game is an adequate sample for Miami. In reality, Miami averages about 32 points per game, which is pretty good. 26 nationally in college football in scoring offense. So I would expect playing indoors coming up at Jerry's World, probably going to get a better showing from Miami's offense than we got last time around. And folks, like, none of this is taking anything away from Ohio State. Like, I'm not saying Miami goes in there and steamrolls the Buckeyes. I think this is going to be a hell of a matchup. And I think if anything, I was listening to Josh Pate from On3 Sports. He was doing a spot on, I think it was on Colin Cowherd's show, and he was saying, I don't think there's any team in the country that's more violent than Miami when it comes to line of scrimmage play and domination. Like, we know the trenches are going to be key for the Hurricanes. And as we broke down late last week, Miami seems to have an edge at both lines of scrimmage, but the edge that Ohio State is going to try to have is perimeter skill position guys, right? Like, Miami will probably win most of the battles in the trenches, but Ohio State has guys like Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith who are really going to try to make the difference in this football game. But Miami's violence is a massive factor here. Going through some of the stats for this game, here's an area where Miami has been statistically elite, and this area was a big factor in the win against Texas A&M. Miami is statistically elite when it comes to forcing turnovers and turnover margin, like rarefied air here. Miami has forced 23 turnovers this season compared to just 14 forced by Ohio State. Miami is tied for 16th in the country in turnovers gained. The Buckeyes are tied for 83rd. And Miami is tied for 11th in turnover margin at a plus 11 clip. Ohio State is decent there, even though they haven't forced a whole lot of turnovers. They also haven't given it up too much. They're 27th in the country at a plus 5. So forcing turnovers and turnover margin is an area where Miami's been purely elite. And of course, if you can make Julian Sayin uncomfortable, Bryce Fitzgerald, who leads the nation with 6 interceptions, Miami's true freshman safety, is going to try to get his hands on a couple of those this week. Miami's going to try to force some fumbles. Keontae Scott had one of those in the last game. Remarkable how quickly he was able to recover from injury. I think Miami's defense in this game, and I'll give you the bonus key to the game right now, I think Miami's going to have to win the turnover margin against Ohio State in order to get it done. So what are our other keys? Let's dive into those. I got 3 for the defense and 3 for the offense. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only a few days away from game day, and we're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Guys, let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rugiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rugiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Folks, Rugiet Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients into one mint that dissolves under your tongue and it absorbs fast. The science behind Rugiet Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in one formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. You can connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's rugiet.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And if you're with us every single day, we call you an everydayer. Now you can join the exclusive Everydayer Club. You can click the link in the show notes below or go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com and unlock all access in the Everydayer Club. On the all access tier, I give you guys bonus episodes called the Canes Colada, where I wake up in the morning, I sip my coffee, we talk shop with you guys. You get exclusive newsletters, written articles. I wrote an article for you guys this morning about those misconceptions, those fallacies that I talked about. And you also get one-on-one text message access with me. So lockedoncanes.supercast.com. Unlock the all access tier. It's a good late Christmas present if you forgot to get yourself something or get your loved one something. Check out the all access tier of the Everydayer Club here for Locked On Canes. All right, keys to the game for Miami. I gave you the bonus key. I think Miami's going to have to win the turnover margin, right? You won it 3-1, +2 against Texas A&M. I think you're going to have to be at least +1 against Ohio State. But let's get into the other ones. Let me give you 3 for Miami's defense, okay? The only place to start here, Hurricanes against Buckeyes. We have to start with Miami's defensive line. Miami has the second highest graded pass rush in the entire country, earning an elite 92.1 Pro Football Focus grade. Miami has recorded the most pressures and sacks nationally within 2.5 seconds. So that's the key. Even when your quarterback has a quick release, Miami gets there faster than everyone else. Sometimes holding the football for just 2.5 seconds is not long enough. Miami leads the nation in sacks and pressures within under 2.5 seconds. So that's huge. Now, not surprisingly, for Ohio State, their worst offensive performances of the season, the 2 worst, came against the 2 teams that they faced who featured top 15 pass rushes. Texas, who they beat week 1, and Indiana, who they lost to in the Big Ten championship game. Now, Miami's pass rush grades out better than both of those, Indiana's and Texas. So big key for victory here is Miami getting home with the pass rush and trying to make Julian Sayin uncomfortable, okay? Now, another one for the Hurricanes. Key number 2 for the defense. You got to stop the run. Miami has an excellent rushing defense, 6th in the entire country. They just held Texas A&M to 89 rushing yards. A&M could not establish a running game, and so Miami made the A&M offense one-dimensional. Miami did the same thing to Notre Dame in the season opener. They held Jeremiah Love to 33 rushing yards. They made Notre Dame one-dimensional. The Buckeyes, they ranked 62nd in the country in rushing, so it's bang average statistically at just under 163 yards per game. But I give top rusher Bo Jackson, I give him credit. Very good player. He's over 1,000 yards on the season. He's averaging 6.2 yards per carry. So Miami's going to try to keep him in check. Now, at least in this matchup, Miami's not going to have a quarterback who's a real rushing threat, right? They just faced one in Marcel Reed. They faced several throughout the regular season. You're not going to get much of that from Julian Sayin, so you're going to have to keep their other elements of their running game in check. Miami's going to have to do that because, again, you want to try to make Julian Sayin drop back a lot. Ohio State is also brilliant on third downs, okay? Now, if you're going to win defensively on third down, you win those by making third downs long. You want to win on first and second down in order to win on third down. So that's really important for Miami's D. All right, the next key for Miami's defense. You're going to have to deal with the likes of Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Now, I cannot wait to see how Corey Heatherman approaches that. Do you put your top cover guy, who I believe is Xavier Lucas, do you put him on Jeremiah Smith, or do you put Lucas on Carnell Tate for more one-on-ones, and then you try to bracket JJ and cover him with multiple people, right? I believe against a guy like Jeremiah Smith, like there's no proven formula to stopping him. but I believe you have to mix up your coverages with him. You have to bump him, play physically with him, try to throw him off of his routes as much as you can. And again, Miami's defense this year has been exquisite. There's a reason why, one of the finalists for the Broyles Award, which is given out to the top assistant coach, happens to be Miami's defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman, and he'll probably win the darn thing. He's got to come up with the best possible game plan to deal with all the playmakers of Ohio State. Let's move over to Miami's offense. Key number one. And you notice some of these offensive keys are kind of mirror to the defensive keys, but you must be able to establish your running game. And it won't be easy here. Ohio State has a top 5 rushing defense in the country. They give up just 85 yards per game. Like, their rushing defense is slightly better even than Miami's. Miami gives up about 87 per game. Ohio State only gives up 85. So Miami's violent offensive line must impose their will. And Mark Fletcher can be used and will be used to wear them down, right? You put him in a stretcher, Fletcher. He gets stronger as the game goes on. And of course, I know we all talk about in the A&M game, it was really the inside runs, the A-gap that was working best for Miami. You can't only do that here. This is, what Shannon Dawson learned in the second half of the season. You have to mix it up. You need to try to get Gerard Pringle to the outside. You obviously need to throw downfield to establish your running game, because you need to stretch out Ohio State's defense. You need to make them defend the entire field, because if they feel like, hey, all they're doing is handing it to Fletcher, we can load up the box. No, you need to take shots downfield, which means Carson Beck obviously needs to be at his A game in this one. And I think also, I know our guy, the truth teller, Bruce Warner, is listening. Can we get some screens for Miami's running backs that can help neutralize the Buckeyes' defensive line, which is very good? Caden Curry, we mentioned, he's got 11 sacks on the year. Try to use their aggression against them with the screen game. I know this is what the truth teller wants, and I hope Miami delivers on that. All right, the next key, you have to get Malachi Tony involved. And offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson knows that. I think he had a little bit of regret for maybe not having a better plan for Tony in the A&M game. A&M did really well against Malachi Tony. They largely kept him in check right until Tony scored the game-winning touchdown. But up until then, they did a great job against him. This is the best team, probably the best defense Miami has faced all year. So I don't think you can win this game if Malachi Tony does not have an impact on it. So getting Malachi Tony involved is huge. And then in order to get Malachi Tony involved, your next offensive key is Miami's other receivers have got to be on their A game in this one. So Ohio State is probably going to focus on shutting Tony down, right? Ohio State's message is going to be, let's make somebody else beat us. We're not going to let Malachi Tony beat us. They're going to try to beat us with somebody else. So the extra attention for baby Jesus is hopefully going to free up the likes of CJ Daniels, Keelan Marion, JoJo Trader, Josh Moore. And so these players have to create separation, and they have to complete their catches to take some of that pressure off of Tony. This is a huge spotlight for Carson Beck. And you know what? I could have talked about this when we talked about the myths and the fallacies, the lazy narratives, because I guess other lazy narratives that keep going around about Miami, because I've had several people bring this up to me, not usually Miami fans, either SEC fans or Ohio State fans have said to me, well, do you really trust Carson Beck? That guy, he gets a little shaky in these big games. I mean, listen, Carson, to me, I would take his experience in this game over Julian Sayin. And I'm not making a direct quarterback for quarterback comparison, but if you're telling me I can go into, and it's a neutral site game, I know there's going to be a lot of Ohio State fans there. I get it. They'll probably have, well more than 50% there. You go into a neutral site game, a national championship quarterfinal, give me the guy who's played in all the big environments in the SEC, and he just won a playoff game. Julian Sayin didn't have to because they had a bye week. But give me the battle-tested super senior over the first-year starter. So I feel like Carson gets kind of unfairly criticized, because he had a bad reputation for some coming out of Georgia. I don't trust that guy in the big game. And then the other one is Mario Cristobal. I mean, people talk about Cristobal as if he hasn't won any big games. You don't think that A&M game last week was pretty big? You don't think that win against Notre Dame week 1, which ultimately was what got Miami into the playoff, that wasn't a big win? And I'll give you another one. Back in 2021, when Cristobal was still the head coach at Oregon, he went into Columbus, Ohio, and upset the Ohio State Buckeyes on the road. That was a massive win for Coach Cristobal. So, I know all the personnel is different and stuff, but I think Cristobal understands the philosophy and the type of performances that are needed to win a game like this. So you can put that into the whole myth-busting department as well. All right, so a couple of important future Miami Hurricanes are involved in practice. We'll talk about it. You want to keep it locked right here, folks. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Oh, we're certainly not done yet with FanDuel. Fridays always feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better because every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Folks, Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during happy hour always brings something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly specials before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. Folks, the timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds a little extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We have so much to be grateful for this holiday season, heading into New Year's. If you're a Miami fan, we know for the last 20-some years, the team hasn't been good enough, right? You had a couple of 10-win seasons in there. 2017, you got kind of close. But this year, being in the playoff, getting your first playoff victory is so valuable. Heading into the second round, the quarterfinal round of the CFP, having your opportunity as one of the final 8 teams standing in America for your chance to win a national championship. We're so grateful. We're so thankful for that. But then the other part of it being a part of the postseason. The underrated thing is, and this includes the teams that play in regular bowl games as well. It's not just the playoff teams, but man, having the extra practice time, having those extra 12 to 15 practices to work with. And I know obviously it's something Notre Dame didn't care a whole lot about because, they were so humiliated by the prospect of playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl that they declined their invitation. Now, when you decline your bowl invitation, you're also declining those extra practices, which I think can be super valuable, especially for the young guys on your roster heading into the following year, okay? And something that Miami is benefiting from with all of these extra practices is some of your enrollees, your early enrollees, were able to get here so early that they're allowed to practice during this CFP season, even before January rolls around. Jackson Cantwell, Miami's top recruit in the entire country, 5-star offensive tackle. He can't play in the game on Wednesday. He's not officially part of the roster yet, but Cantwell is allowed to practice, and he's been out there reaping the benefits of it. There was a limited viewing window for the media on Saturday. There's some videos going around of Cantwell. It's just during stretching period, and I'll admit, Cantwell, because there's a very rigorous routine that the guys go through during warmups, and you could tell Cantwell just got off the bus in South Florida, and he doesn't really know that routine yet. He was looking a little bit confused, but folks, he's going to shake those cobwebs. He's going to get used to that routine. And Cantwell, he's not only going to be awesome at Miami, but him getting this head start is going to be so invaluable, right? Widely projected Cantwell at 6'7.5", 335 pounds. Widely projected to be Miami's starting right tackle as soon as next year as a true freshman. So he's going to have to officially earn it out there on that practice field. But for him to be getting so much advanced work in, and for him to be able to graduate high school early enough in December, come on down to Coral Gables and start practicing is just a huge, huge benefit for the Miami Hurricanes. And just him being able to learn and being able to already get, I don't know how many reps he's getting against Bain and Mesidor. You know, I don't know about that, but for him to be able to get reps against those guys, to be able to get reps against Marquise Lightfoot and Armando Blunt. And by the way, you know who else has been practicing? Hayden Lowe. First year Miami defensive end, former 5-star recruit out of high school out of Southern California. Now for Lowe, he's already, a student at Miami. He's been enrolled, but he suffered an ACL tear, a season-ending injury right before the season started. And watching Lowe practice fall camp last year, it looked like that young man was going to be ready to be a contributor immediately. So it's too bad he suffered the injury. Like, the injury was a couple weeks before the season started that he suffered. So it was too bad he suffered that. But Lowe rocked his rehab. He's healthy again. He's out there on the practice field because, we know next year how important it's going to be because you're losing Bain to the NFL, going to be a first-round pick. You're losing Mesidor to the NFL, might be a first-round pick, second-round pick at the absolute worst for Mezzi. And you need guys like the names I mentioned, including Hayden Lowe. And you've got some dynamite true freshmen coming in as well, like Ashari Charles. That dude is an absolute beast. Like, you need these dynamic young players to be able to step up and step in. When you get the type of defensive line coaching Miami gets with Jason Taylor working with the defensive ends, Coach D. Lou, they all work together, but D. Lou a lot with the interior guys and JT, the Hall of Famer, a lot with the defensive ends. Miami's defense is going to be in great shape, and I think the defensive line is going to be a bright spot even after you lose a generational guy. It's not overrated, a generational guy like Rueben Bain and an awesome player like Akheem Mesidor. Even after you lose those guys to the NFL, I think Miami's pass rush is going to be in really, really good shape. All right, so folks, I'm going to offer some point this week my official prediction for Miami against Ohio State. I think I'm leaning to a score that's like in the 20s. I'm not going to get too crazy. Like, I overestimated the score from last week. I didn't have 10-3 on my bingo card for Miami against A&M. I think there's going to be more points scored in this one from both sides, but I'll finalize my prediction early in the week. But I think I'm going to have Miami edging out a relatively low-scoring game. We'll have that for you coming up this week. We'll connect with the truth teller, Bruce Warner, as well on a Truth Teller Tuesday. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen on this glorious Sunday. Smash the like button, subscribe. Thank you guys, by the way, because we recently passed 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is just an awesome milestone that I'm so grateful for. And if you're an everydayer, check out the Everydayer Club in the all-access tier, lockedoncanes.supercast.com. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.